Hey everybody, it's your boy Brian Von VA, back at it again with another set of D&D stories. Today we're going to be talking about what's the worst thing a player has ever done in your game, but we're drawing from 4chan. 4chan has been known to have some wild stories out there, but if you'd like to leave a story that we can read on here, leave it in the comments below. We're happy to know. Have a player who kinda acts up when he isn't in the spotlight. Now don't get me wrong, he's generally a fine player and a good lad, but sometimes he does these weird power plays. Here's an example from a recent Delta Green campaign I ran. What is Delta Green? Comments below, can you help? Last session, players raided a house of cultists. Shit hits the fan and that guy's character died and another mortally wounded, i.e. out of the game for the foreseeable future. The new characters are given the mission to go to the house, clean it up, gather evidence, and forestall the authorities. When they arrive, instead of talking to the surviving PCs and utilizing them all in the cleanup, forestalling, evidence gathering, and all that guy instead insists that they leave the house. He comes up with some bullshit, I have authority stuff to get them to leave. Argument breaks out. That takes precious time away from the players to clean up the place. In the end, the surviving PCs just don't want to keep the argument going and leaves. Group misses half the clues they were supposed to get. Everyone thinks it's a weird-ass move. I mean, it's not as bad as the horror stories usually posted, but it definitely takes some air out of the game. Another example. PCs have identified a leading cult member, have somehow convinced another member that they have just fallen and want to return to the faith. Member agrees to set up a meeting with leading cultist. I set up the scenario so it's initially confrontational, but they can go the social route if they really want to. Every other player clearly wants to take the social route, even as they get grappled by cultists. Finally, the PCs, excluding that guy, and leading cultist agrees to talk and are on the way inside the cult's trailer. During all this, that guy has been in hiding and has slowly been creeping towards the trailer. Just as the situation has calmed down and everyone agrees to talk, he attacks the leading cultist. Nobody helps him. He gets ass blasted. He gets his ass handed to him by the cultist. Gets even more ass blasted. Through some good RP and persuade rolls, the other PCs manage to convince the cult leader that that guy is, well, just on drugs. He pouts for the rest of the session. I just don't get where this shit is coming from. If he's usually a pretty good fella and he's not all that bad as a person or anything, I would just sit him down and have a conversation with him about what's going on here. I've had a halfling rogue decide he's going to cut off my dwarf's beard, brag about it loudly, then get mad when I bash his brains in. When he went ahead and cut my dwarf's beard off during the night. Yeah, you don't mess with a dwarven man's beard, laddie! One of the party got into the situation where he got shot and mortally wounded by about 10 thugs in their warehouse. As he was dying, the thug leader was trying to get him to tell the rest of the party that he was fine and that he'd cleared out the warehouse. But instead of doing that or telling us what actually had happened, he actually said for us to come and meet him while there was still a room full of trigger-happy thugs ready to blow us away. He's typically been a little salty sausage in other campaigns I've played with him, but that was the first real dick move he'd pulled, and he hasn't played with us since. We all survived, and the next session of the campaign found us discovering he was actually a robot. We chopped up his body for parts, a sort of revenge from the DMs for that guy's character essentially being min-max stat blocks. Slept with another player's wife, destroying half a dozen friendships, a 10-year campaign, and a marriage, ultimately leading to a wasted life and useless death of a friend. The story is this. My friend and GM ran a campaign for a decade or so with several players, including myself and his wife. He had walked away from some success as a musician and devoted himself to gaming. Another player subversively began courting his wife and ultimately purchased her with more money and shiny baubles. My once strong and inspiring friend was shattered and couldn't deal with the loss of both his wife and everything he had willingly traded for her and gaming. The marriage fell apart, the group fell apart, some friends took the betrayer's side, some the GM's side, the campaign ended. My friend spiraled into a life of drugs, homelessness, and forever longing for his lost life, until it all caught up with him some years later, and he drove into a solid object at 150 miles an hour. He passed away instantly, and thus ends his saga. He was a genuine friend, and I miss him dearly. Anyone out there who's dealing with any sort of problems akin to this, even if your friends haven't taken your side, I've been there, trust me. I've had a lot of problems myself lately, and not many of my friends took my side in all the fallout. But I am here to say, everybody here in the comments, everybody here at MrRipper, we're here for you. Just leave a comment down below rather than letting yourself spiral. We love you. I've been in a game where one player looked at another character's sheet, saw how much gold they had, then rolled to steal it. This never ends well. Never mind the character had no storage items, nor the strength to carry 300,000 gold pieces. That's a lot of money. So there was no possible way they could actually have all that with them. But somehow, we were wrong for telling the thief they didn't actually get all that money. Well, it's either the thief gets all the money and gets murdered for it, or they just get a little bit salty. Had a player playing a Paladin decide to suddenly swap alignment and become anti-Paladin. Killed every single person in the village he's got to. I sent knights and common militia after him at first, and some followers for his own small militia of evil mercenaries, and eventually a few necromancers who believed he was the caller of chaos foretold to lead armies and conquer. I sent high-level clerics and paladins with armies of knights and peasants to squash and destroy the growing evil. He mismanaged his armies as he drifted into a villainous, sadistic, evil madman. In a final attempt to achieve immortality via an ancient artifact of an elder vampire's preserved blood in a canopic jar from an old dungeon ruin filled with magical deadly traps, he just sent waves of his mercs in. They ended up betraying him right before he got the artifact. As the armies of good encroached to destroy his armies, he got Caesared by his generals, who then took the blood and traded it to the clerics for their lives. Yeah, well, what are the clerics doing with it? That's what I want to know. So, I have a consistent world where the events of one campaign can and do affect other campaigns. I had two small parties running around at the same time doing different things. One was a solo campaign for a lawful good paladin called Gareth Duval, while the other, more chaotic campaign was spearheaded by the min-maxed main character syndrome, Briarca. While Gareth was fulfilling his investigation to uncover a secret threat at the command of his goddess, Briarc almost broke me by going all chaotic asshole. Here's some of his deeds. He joined the Bloodfang, an elite organization of mercenaries and assassins that's present in all the realms. He then proceeded to disintegrate the chapter master of the realm and let the other players, PC, take the fall when they inevitably started to investigate. The other player had to roll a new character. He was on a boat where the captain told him to investigate a stolen heirloom. He found out that the chef's young boy stole it and tossed him overboard before returning the heirloom to its rightful owner. That's terrible. He let slavers capture an important female elf NPC, set it up so another slaver group believes the female elf NPC was supposed to be theirs, then got the authorities involved when they started to battle over her, then rescued her, only to use her as bait for enemies in a dungeon. Needless to say, she didn't make it. When the troublesome Briarc reunited with Gareth for a final battle against a demigod, Gareth was making progress talking the demigod down and arranging a divine family reunion between the big bad evil guy demigod and his estranged goddess mother. Briarc found a powerful rifle, oh god, and decided it was taking too long, so he headshots the demigod right before he could admit Gareth was right. The player wanted Briarc to be rewarded by the goddess, whose demigod son he had shot with a divine rifle, quote, quote, in the form of being a demigod himself. The goddess was not pleased, clearly, and he left the temple still as a mortal. In a later campaign, during a Githyanki invasion, I made it a point to describe the corpse of Briarc in the street, with only a shirt on and no pants. That PC got an unceremonious death far from being a demigod or even a champion of the gods. Good riddance! And may no one remember his name ever again. One player I had demanded more politics in the game, Was then annoyed that the power holders in my, admittedly very generic, medieval fantasy setting were mostly nobles and landholders, not people elected by peasants. Yep, this already sounds like it's going to be a terrible ordeal. Tried to get the player group to strike in solidarity with the teachers' unions. Was a university game. Pouted when we all decided to continue to play Dungeons and Dungeoning. Tried to lead a people's revolution against the aforementioned noble power holders along with the thief, who was playing a much deeper political game. Pouted when the cleric of law and rulership, mage who was a patrician in a major city, and fighter working his way up to a barony, sided with the nobility. Pouted when his ragtag peasant army was defeated by trained soldiers and cavalry. We even fought it out using mass combat rules and tiny cardboard box unit markers. Just so cute. Ooh, this one's a no-no. Actually punched the thief's player when it turns out he was using the revolution as a cover to expand his gang spy ring and betrayed the revolution at every step. God bless you, Rob B, wherever you may be. Your antics made a forgettable game actually interesting. Hey, look, I just want to know more about what happened after he punched the thief's player. Player who gets easily bored when not in a fight. Oh, I know those types. Investigating a cult. Find they have a church in town. My cleric and a few other party members disguise ourselves as pilgrims since the guards are looking for us on the order of a corrupt noble. Get into the church and start asking questions. We get a few questions answered, and at the start of a lead is forming when that player gets bored. Suddenly, dragonborn flame attack. Suddenly, every firebomb he has gets thrown. Church is in flames. Try to save the priest, but fail and he dies. Have to use healing spells on a bunch of civilians who took damage in the fire. Lawful good cleric. The guards start to show up, low profile, completely shattered. No leads, no further info, sent 10 steps back. Actual argument breaks out where all of us are yelling. That player defending his actions while the DM just sits there silently. Weeks of investigation work and roleplay down the drain. Campaign is so derailed that the DM has to veto the session. Time gets put back to before the burning took place. And we're all to pretend it never happened. Lose all trust in one of the party's main characters and really don't want to adventure alongside him anymore, knowing he could be a liability. That player slowly stops showing up. Campaign now on hiatus. Forever DM here. I never get to actually be a player, and goddamn was I salty that when I finally do, it falls apart for seemingly no reason. Intentionally vomited on a goblin prisoner. What? Still don't know if it was sexual or not. She always was a weird one. I have so many questions and so much ick. A player in my group severed an NPC woman's spine. What? She sort of deserved it for keeping him prisoner. Okay. It was a post-apocalyptic game. World sort of like Stalker. She controlled a ruined hospital and the PCs needed medicine. She didn't want to give it to them. His first character got shot in the leg, so he decided to retire that character and make a new one who was a prisoner of hers. He broke out, beat her unconscious, got a scalpel and some alcohol and stitches, and cut her spine surgically. Then sewed it back up and kept her as a prisoner. Not as what you'd think either. He wanted to give her a new life in their village. I had to explain to him that in a post-apocalyptic world, a crippled woman would just be a drain on resources. This whole situation was messed up, but I still want to know more. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and of course, leave a comment down below letting us know what was the worst thing a player has ever done in your game. We always want to know about that as much as we want to know about the happy stuff. So please be safe, be happy, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.